picture this. It's 11 p.m. on a rainy Thursday, and you're sitting on the couch. You're just bathed in that ambient blue glow of your laptop screen.
Oh yeah, the classic late-night doom scrolling setup.
Exactly. You're doom scrolling, swiping through all these headlines about corporate layoffs and rising inflation, market volatility, slowing growth, all of it.
And right on cue, you get that tight knot of anxiety just forming right in the pit of your stomach.
Yeah, that paralyzing feeling is exactly what the stack of financial research and guides we have in front of us is trying to solve today.
Right.
Because the mission of this deep dive isn't just to talk about, macroeconomics. It's to hand you a concrete, step-by-step roadmap for building long-term resilience. We want to help you overcome that exact late-night financial dread.
Because the psychological translation happening in that moment, like in that late-night panic, is profound.
Oh, for sure.
You're watching these massive macroeconomic forces that you literally cannot control. Global supply chains, central bank policies.
So that is totally abstract.
Exactly. But your brain's threat detection center instantly translates those abstract concepts into a feeling of personal scarcity, like actual physical danger.
Which makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, right?
Totally. When the world starts broadcasting scarcity, our natural human instinct is to just completely freeze. We look at our bank balance, we look at the news, and we feel incredibly fragile.
Yeah. We delay our goals and convince ourselves that any forward progress is just paused until the economy magically gets better.
Right, which is exactly what the media wants you to do.
Okay, well, let's unpack this. Because while the media narrative desperately wants you to stay in that frozen state, just glued to the screen, feeling powerless, our sources for this deep dive argue the exact opposite.
You really do.
They make a huge case that a recession, like a severe economic downturn, is actually the exact window where quiet wealth and lifelong resilience are built.
I mean, the illusion of powerlessness is the very first thing we have to dismantle here. Recessions do not actually remove your ability to build wealth.
It's a total myth, right?
A pervasive myth. What they actually remove are the easy, zero-gravity gains.
Right. The era of cheap money.
Exactly. I'm talking about the gains that came from a piping hot job market, exceptionally cheap borrowing rates, and artificially rising asset prices where, let's be honest, everyone feels like a genius.
Right, and when that environment dries up, the panic sets in.
Yeah, but operating out of that fear damages your nervous system just as much as it damages your balance sheet.
But wait, I have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening who is genuinely feeling the pinch right now.
Please do.
Because how can we sit here and talk about, building wealth or financial wins when the grocery bill just went up 20%, the rent skyrocketed, and the paycheck definitely stayed flat?
It's rough.
It feels a bit disconnected from reality to talk about winning when most people feel like they are actively drowning,
That is the crucial caveat to this entire discussion, and it's the exact right lens to view this through. The synthesis of all these sources makes it really clear that the goal right now, in this specific inflationary environment, is not about getting rich overnight.
Okay, so it's not about massive stock market gains.
Not at all. The goal is to become hard to break.
Hard to break. I like that.
Yeah, a recession forces a brutal kind of clarity. It acts as a structural cycle that reveals financial fragility.
Like a stress test.
Exactly like a stress test for a bridge. You don't know where the microfractures are until you run heavy trucks over it. The gap between those who come out ahead and those who don't isn't about luck.
And it isn't even always about income, according to the sources.
Right. It's determined by who uses the immense pressure of the moment to get incredibly specific about their reality, rather than just using fear as a blanket excuse to stay frozen.
So it shifts the goalpost from this abstract, almost greedy idea of wealth to a very tangible idea of defense.
Yeah.
And if the goal is to become hard to break, the sources point out that our first major vulnerability is our own nervous system.
Because you can't make strategic, forward-thinking choices when you feel hunted.
Right. Which leads us to the concept of building psychological armor. And I'll be honest, the first step they outline is not glamorous at all.
Not even a little bit.
It's an emergency fund.
It really isn't glamorous. Nobody is posting screenshots of their basic emergency fund on social media,
Yeah, it does make for an exciting dinner party conversation.
But cash is your psychological armor.
Let's translate this into the real world for a second. Having this buffer, this sleep better at night fund, as they call it, means that when your air conditioner breaks in the middle of a sweltering July, Or your car suddenly starts making that terrifying clunking noise on the highway.
Oh, the worst sound.
It stops being a life-altering crisis. It just gets downgraded. It becomes a minor, quiet inconvenience.
And that is what psychological armor looks like in practice. It buys you the space to breathe. And every dollar sitting in that account represents one less dollar you'll be forced to borrow at exorbitant interest rates when life inevitably throws a surprise at you.
Because it always does.
But the massive hurdle here is that people get totally overwhelmed by the large numbers that financial gurus tend to throw around.
Oh yeah, you hear, save 6 months of income.
Right, and when your current savings are at zero, 6 months sounds mathematically impossible. So out of sheer overwhelm, you don't even try.
Which is why the roadmap in our sources breaks this down to avoid that exact paralysis. Step 1, do not aim for 6 months.
Nope.
Aim for a concrete target of just $500. That's it.
Just get $500 in a separate account.
And they specifically emphasize putting it into a high-yield savings account. I think we need to explain why that specific type of account matters so much right now.
Instead of just leaving it in your standard checking.
Exactly. Why does the HYSA matter?
Well, it comes down to the mechanics of inflation. If you leave cash sitting in a standard, traditional checking account right now, inflation is essentially setting a match to a tiny percentage of it every single day.
Which is terrifying when you visualize it like
The
that.
purchasing power of that money is actively shrinking. But a high-yield savings account, or HYSA, acts like a fire blanket
How so?
because these accounts pay a significantly higher interest rate, often 10 to 12 times higher than a traditional bank. So they pay you enough to help offset the damage of inflation.
Right, so it doesn't make you wealthy, but it protects the purchasing power of your armor.
Exactly. Plus, keeping it in a separate institution creates a psychological barrier.
So you aren't tempted to treat it as everyday spending cash.
You don't see it when you log into your main checking account, so it doesn't feel like money you can just spend on takeout.
Okay, so once you hit that initial 500, you push it to 1,000. Then the strategy shifts.
Yeah, you don't just guess what you need next.
You sit down and calculate your real bare-bones expenses for one single month.
We're talking rent, groceries, essential insurance, minimum debt payments, and utilities.
Not the lifestyle you want, but the absolute baseline lifestyle required to keep the lights on and keep you breathing.
You have to add that up in real hard dollars, not just a vague feeling or a guess.
Right. And when you finally have that specific number written down, the entire concept of saving undergoes a massive psychological shift.
It really does. It goes from being this ambient source of anxiety, like constantly wondering, am I saving enough, to a tangible, concrete target that you are actively hunting down.
So you aim to fund one baseline month, and then slowly, eventually, you work toward 3 to 6 months.
But the math immediately creates a roadblock for most people.
Oh, absolutely. When you calculate those bare-bones expenses, you might look at your paycheck and realize there is literally zero margin left to actually fund that initial $500 target.
Which forces us to look at where our money is quietly disappearing.
Which brings us to the concept of the convenience economy.
Oh, this is a big one. We live in a modern world that is brilliantly designed by engineers and behavioral psychologists to separate you from your money with absolutely zero friction.
It is a financial death by 1,000 cuts.
Small, automated $10 and $15 monthly transactions that just slowly bleed your cash flow dry without you ever really noticing.
It's the app subscriptions you totally forgot to cancel after the free trial, the streaming services you haven't logged into in 6 months,
The upgraded cloud storage.
premium delivery fees.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, as maybe our incomes went up slightly, we just absorbed these convenience costs.
But now that the easy money is gone and inflation has hit, those tiny leaks are basically threatening to sink the ship.
Right. And a recession acts as the perfect, culturally acceptable excuse to perform a ruthless audit on your own life.
The economy is basically giving you full permission to look closely at your habits and cut the excess.
And the sources lay out a highly specific process for you to execute this week. They call it CEO time.
I love this concept.
The instructions are incredibly clear. You open your calendar app right now, today, and you block out exactly 60 minutes sometime this week.
Label that block CEO time.
Yeah, you treat it like a non-negotiable meeting with your boss,
Yeah.
except, you are the boss.
So you sit down in a quiet space and you pull up your bank and credit card statements from the last 2 months.
And there is a crucial detail here regarding your emotional state when you do this. You have to do this without a single ounce of shame or guilt.
That's the hardest part. When people finally look at their aggregated spending, the immediate reaction is usually immense guilt.
How could I have spent so much on takeout? Why didn't I cancel this earlier?
But guilt is a paralyzing emotion.
Yeah.
You have to reframe this exercise entirely. You are an auditor looking at a spreadsheet. It is just neutral, objective data.
You are simply gathering information that you did not possess last month.
Exactly. You separate the spending into needs, wants, and that special category of, I didn't even realize I was still paying for that.
We all have that category. Now, the goal of this 60-minute session isn't to magically fix your entire financial life in 1 hour.
No, that's impossible.
It is to find just one automated subscription or convenience expense that you do not explicitly love and cancel it ruthlessly.
Just one.
But let's be real for a second. Saving $15 on a canceled app subscription isn't going to buy a house.
Definitely not.
And it certainly doesn't solve 20% inflation at the grocery store. So why are the sources making such a massive deal out of pocket change? I mean, it feels like treating a shark bite with a Band-Aid.
It's a totally fair challenge, but focusing on the mathematical value of the $15 completely misses the underlying mechanism.
Okay, so what's the mechanism?
The value isn't in the math, it's in the psychological shift. Reclaiming that $15 is your first declaration of independence from the convenience economy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It is tangible proof to yourself that you are no longer operating on autopilot as a passive consumer. You are actively stepping into the role of capital allocator.
It builds a sense of agency that cascades into much larger financial decisions down the road.
You're proving to yourself that you are playing to win, and you are reclaiming your resources for your own future.
I see. So you've audited the bleed, you've found an extra $40 or $50 a month through CEO time, and you've established that small psychological armor.
Right.
The immediate temptation is to just absorb that reclaimed money back into your checking account to ease the pressure. But the sources are adamant that this newly reclaimed money has a very specific, aggressive target.
High-interest debt.
Yes.
You have to aim it directly at the single biggest threat to your financial security. One of the sources points out that saying, I want to be debt-free is a mood, not an actual plan.
Right. People carry these balances for years because they lack a targeted strategy.
And a recession is the ultimate forcing function. You must isolate the single most expensive debt you carry, which is almost always a credit card balance, and mathematically dismantle it.
Instead of looking at debt as just a bill you have to pay, I think it really helps to visualize it as a reverse investment portfolio.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Compound interest is an absolute miracle when you own it and it's working for you in the stock market. But a high-interest credit card is compound interest actively working to dismantle your future.
It's terrifying.
And we have to talk about how financial institutions structure these loans, specifically the concept of front-loaded amortization.
It sounds like heavy financial jargon, but the mechanism is actually quite simple to visualize.
Yeah, think of your monthly loan payment as a pie. Early on in the lifespan of that loan, the bank slices up to 90% of that pie for their own profit.
That's the interest payment.
Right. Only 10% of your payment actually goes toward shrinking the money you originally borrowed, which is the principal.
And that structure is entirely intentional. Financial institutions are businesses, and their most profitable product is your debt.
They want you making those minimum payments for decades.
Because you are essentially paying a massive subscription fee for the privilege of owing them money without ever significantly reducing the core balance.
If you give a credit card company a single penny less than what is fully owed, their friendly marketing facade drops instantly.
And remember, interest rates on carried balances do not pause just because the macroeconomy is struggling.
Which brings us to the concrete tactic to fight back. You don't just click the standard payment button online.
No, you have to call them.
You call your loan servicer and explicitly confirm how to apply principal-only extra payments.
You have to ensure that the extra $50 you reclaim during CEO time bypasses the interest pie completely.
It has to strike directly at the core balance.
Because the mechanism of why this works is crucial. Credit cards calculate your interest daily based on your total principal balance.
Okay.
So every time you make a principal-only payment and shrink that core number, you are simultaneously shrinking the math they use to charge you interest tomorrow.
That is so powerful.
Every chunk of principal you eliminate permanently improves your monthly cash flow. Think of every high-interest debt you completely eliminate as giving yourself a permanent tax-free monthly raise.
So we have the strategy. But, I mean, we have to address human nature and the modern digital environment here.
Always the hardest part.
You do your CEO time, you make a targeted, principal-only payment, and you feel incredibly empowered.
Right.
But then it's a highly stressful Tuesday evening. You're exhausted from navigating office politics. You open your phone, and a targeted algorithm shows you the exact pair of shoes or the exact piece of tech you've been casually searching for.
And they know exactly when to show it to you.
They really do. How do we defend the plan when our own brains are tired?
This is where we need structural defensive strategies. And our sources highlight two highly effective mechanisms for this.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is turning time into a weapon through the 24-hour cooling rule.
The 24-hour cooling rule?
Yeah. The modern commerce ecosystem spends billions of dollars engineering interfaces to completely remove friction. They want you to see an item, feel the dopamine hit of desire, and execute the purchase in under 10 seconds.
Using saved credit cards or facial recognition. They designed it so you don't even have to reach for your wallet. It's terrifyingly frictionless.
You defeat their billions of dollars in algorithmic engineering by simply introducing artificial friction.
So how does that work in practice?
If you are tempted by a non-essential purchase, you force yourself to wait a full 24 hours. You can put it in the digital cart, but then you must close the tab and walk away.
Just walk away.
In the vast majority of cases, the acute emotional urge passes. The dopamine spike fades, the trap fails, and your capital remains yours.
You are essentially outweighting the impulse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how many things feel absolutely essential on a Monday night, but look completely ridiculous by Wednesday morning.
So,
The sources also mention willpower as a major vulnerability here. I always thought saving money was just about having ironclad discipline, but the research completely debunks that idea.
it does. Relying on daily motivation to execute financial discipline is a guaranteed trap.
Why is that?
The sources point out that willpower isn't a fixed personality trait. It functions much more like a computer's RAM or its short-term processing memory.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
If you have too many tabs open all day, like making complex decisions at work, navigating traffic, managing family stress, your system experiences severe decision fatigue.
By 8 p.m., you literally run out of processing power.
Exactly. An exhausted brain will always find an excuse to seek comfort through spending. I
Yeah.
worked incredibly hard today. I deserve this expensive takeout.
Right, so you have to take your own human flaws out of the equation entirely.
You offload the RAM through automation. You set up your banking infrastructure so that the transfer to your high-yield emergency fund or the extra payment to your credit card executes on the exact day your paycheck arrives.
Before you even wake up and see the money sitting in your checking account, it's already gone.
It is actively working for you.
You let the system build your psychological armor while you sleep. That guarantees that your exhausted, decision-fatigued Tuesday night brain doesn't even have the opportunity to sabotage your long-term goals.
You make the difficult strategic choice exactly once, and you let the code enforce it forever.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have.
We've moved from the paralyzing anxiety of late-night doom scrolling to executing real, tangible power moves. We've audited the lifestyle leaks through CEO time.
We're building that concrete psychological armor with our initial $500 buffer.
And we are systematically dismantling high-interest debt with principal-only payments. And we are defending all of that progress by utilizing the 24-hour rule and automating our willpower.
It's a solid roadmap.
It is. Now, as we pull all these threads together, I want to introduce the final and perhaps the most profound concept from our stack of sources.
The ultimate destination of all this defensive work.
Exactly. It's a concept called building your walkaway number. The sources emphasize that most people spend their entire lives chasing promotions or accumulating luxury items to project the image of success without ever defining what they're actually working toward.
Because looking wealthy is often the fastest mathematical route to staying broke.
Yeah, true wealth has absolutely nothing to do with luxury logos or projecting status to strangers.
The sources define true wealth as the absolute unyielding ability to control your own calendar.
Your walkaway number is not about retiring tomorrow. It's not some massive, unattainable, multi-million-dollar figure so you can go sit on a beach for the rest of your life.
Right. It is fundamentally about buying freedom hours.
Think about what that actually looks like in practice. It means having enough of a buffer in the bank to look at a toxic manager and say, I'm done, without experiencing blind panic about how you will pay next month's rent.
It's the freedom to take a 6-month career break if you are severely burned out.
It is the freedom to care for a sick family member, or to finally take the risk on that business idea you've been sketching out for years.
Every single dollar you save, every subscription you ruthlessly cut during your CEO time, every impulse purchase you successfully defeat using the 24-hour rule.
You are not depriving yourself. You are literally purchasing freedom hours for your future self.
When you realize that choices are the highest form of wealth, the entire paradigm shifts.
Budgeting stops feeling like a restriction or a prison, and it starts feeling like a highly strategic blueprint for your own escape.
Exactly.
Before we wrap up, there's one absolute non-negotiable rule the sources emphasize for this week, and we need to pass it on to you.
Do not try to do all of these things at once.
Please don't. If you pause this audio and attempt to execute all the strategies we just discussed simultaneously, you will overwhelm your system and you will end up doing nothing.
Pick just one concrete action.
Block out that 60 minutes in your calendar right now for CEO time. Or take 10 minutes to set up the automatic transfer to your savings.
Or call your credit card company to confirm how principal payments work.
Just one thing. Transformation is a quiet, deliberate process. You build the wall brick by brick.
And if we look at the bigger picture, beyond just surviving the current economic moment, there is a fascinating secondary effect to consider here.
What's that?
Well, we spent this entire deep dive analyzing how to play defense during a recession, auditing leaks, automating discipline, learning to operate efficiently, and becoming hard to break.
Right.
If this economic pressure forces you to master those defensive mechanics now, imagine how incredibly unstoppable your financial offense will be when the macroeconomic cycle inevitably turns and the economy booms again.
Oh, wow. Because you are building a highly efficient, leak-proof financial machine.
Exactly. When the easy money returns, you won't be wasting it on lifestyle inflation. It will all flow directly toward massive wealth creation.
So what if this downturn, the very thing causing so much late-night stress, is secretly the greatest financial advantage you will ever be handed?